Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Autopsy with Maddie P. I'm your host, Maddie P. Girl. What is cracking, Queen? Do you guys like this 2-week break we have? Are you tired of seeing my face? I feel refreshed. I feel renewed. Thank you for allowing me the time and space. My hair is doing something today, girl. What in the hell? Y'all like my horse shirt? I can't find my little Mommy's Alcoholic shirt. Mommy's Little Alcoholic that was going to be my uni for the pod, and now I cannot find it. And I told my mom about it, and she rolled her eyes. And she rolled them loud, girl. So, welcome back. We're in the same spot again. I have kind of moved out of my house, so the autopsy set is no longer. The iconic white wall, green table set is no longer. So, we're in the process of finding some new spots and switching it up, which I personally am enjoying. But of course we have some warm-ups, some stuff to get into this week. I have to go to work here in a little, so I can't be playing around with y'all like that today, but love you. Okay. The Grammys. I could go pretty far into the world of pop culture, as we all know, and I could talk to you about the Grammys for a while, but the only person I want to talk about, the Biebs. Used to drive a Yukon. Oh my God. Amazing. Somebody commented and said they stripped him down, but you can't take away his talent. And that was what he was trying to portray, which I'm sure it's not. I'm sure he just wanted to go out and sing and nobody look at him the way they always do as a pop star. This man is over it. And that's something we have to understand about the Biebs. And that's why we respect him being a menace to his wife. And now the internet loves Hailey Bieber again, and I am here for it. Y'all want to know something funny about my mom? Obviously, I'm a believer. We've talked about it before. I won't continue to talk about it. But my mom said that she has been praying for Justin Bieber's future wife since we were in love with him at the age of 10. And he got Hailey. The video of her falling whenever he skateboards away is something that I think about often. And same with the Demi Lovato, like hand-me-down jeans, like hand-me-down clothing. If you know, you know. I'm not explaining that. So I thought it was incredible, of course, and I love UConn, and I am with everybody. He needs to make an R&B album. I don't know why he isn't listening to the audience anymore. He just doesn't care, And I didn't realize they haven't shown that baby's face, and I am so happy for them for that. But, what does it look like, though? I have to know. That baby is going to be gorgeous. Because I am with the celebrity, the Nepo babies, but of our celebrities. So, Lily Collins is one of my favorite. Lily Collins? Lily Blanchard. Elena Blanchard. Girl, I don't know. Fuck. Johnny Depp's daughter. Love. Icon. Love. Follow her on Instagram. Follow her everywhere I can possibly follow her. Y'all know who pisses me off, though? Hot take, Northwest. Something about her is just get her off the internet. And I'm not going to sit here and hate on a child. That is something that I am not going to do. But, y'all know how I feel about the Kardashians. I love the Kardashians. And I'm a big Kim fan and stan. Same with Paris Hilton and all these people, because y'all don't get it. They played y'all's ass. You bought what they were selling. You didn't even know it because you were hating. And you paid their bills. We're not getting into this today. We're not doing this. Moving on. Olive Garden guy. Man shoved his head in a fryer. And at first, we had to do some research on this. Me and this man at work, y'all, had to do some research on this. Because for a second, it's there's no proof that he didn't slip and fall, essentially. Where's the camera footage? What's going on? Apparently, 5 people were trying to hold him back from putting his head in that fryer. And somebody at work was like, I know every line cook has had that go through their brain. Not funny. Not funny. Somebody passed away. Not funny. So that is some crazy shit. And then he was telling me about how there was another instance of somebody being thrown in the grease trap and their skin suit essentially falling off. TMI, we're going to get flagged. We're not talking about this. So, and honestly, I don't like the fact that he put his head in the fryer because I have an issue, as y'all know, with picturing things. When it comes to, when Ellie had her surgery, I was picturing her on the table, and it was, and it was melting me. Like, it was severely difficult for me to get through my day. And I am really on the side that we are not supposed to know and or see the type of shit that we do. And once I learned that fact, or was awoken to the ideal that we are meant to live a much different life than we live, and we were exposed to so much shit. And once I realized that, I realized, take a step back. That's why I don't watch the news. That's why I don't need to know. Because we're exposed constantly to these great tragedies that can I speak? That fuck with our brain. And I noticed it really having an effect on me. And I also slowed down watching horror movies, which y'all know I am forever a Miss Halloween. I do love me some horror movies. I do love darker things in terms of aesthetic and in terms of media form. And I just think they're beautiful, and the stories are always so intense, and there's so much to be said about it. That was also a girl who had a complicated past with pain. That was a girl who secretly loved pain and had a really bad relationship with it. And I think I've moved out of that era and really healed that side of my life, so I don't feel the same. Like, I used to sit alone at night and put on like the scariest thing I could find and just, hello, lock her up, call the police. So I think maybe my deranged sides are fading, and I'm becoming much more soft. I don't know, you guys with that? Y'all smell what I'm shitting in? Please don't smell it. So if you guys are taking in a bunch of media, a bunch of tragedy, you don't have to. You don't have to be in the loop, and you don't have to give a fuck what everyone's talking about. And don't let them make you feel like you have to care. Oh, you don't care that guy's head was in a grease trap? No. And it's not something I'd like to see either. It comes in my brain because I'm not naturally supposed to absorb that information. And you are allowed to put your foot down, because that's where I'm at. I'm free floating in what is intended to be my own little peaceful triangle of life. And y'all, I'm tired of that beauty being ripped away. Yes, sometimes by me, but mostly by the world, you know? And I can place my blame on that. You know, I've got acceptance, but I can place my blame there, because what the fuck? Okay, I'm warm. Did that get kind of political? I don't know. And I'm sorry if it did get political. Am I? Today. What's going on? Should I cancel the jingle? Should it be something no longer? Should we leave that in 2025? My first shower of the year. Hags. I say hags way too often. Today, we are talking about changing our perspective in life. There are obviously, as I say about many topics, a lot of ways to discuss perspective and changing the way we view things. The way I want to talk about it today is how I personally went through my beginning changes and my facets of understanding my own perspective on the world. So this is going to be through tips and tricks, through ideals that I've had, and through things that really just help me awaken. Because mama is stubborn. Y'all know that? Mama is stubborn bad. And yes, I did learn acceptance in this very deep way that allowed me to, even like when I'm in an argument and I'm arguing with somebody, I can accept my own faults. That is something that is very hard to do, but once you get into the rhythm, you can do it. I can do all of that. What I cannot do is internally sometimes change my dialogue. And I'm a lot better about this now, but in a past life, while getting sober and while entering my healing journey, I could not get a grip on my internal dialogue and on the way that I viewed life. And it was a slow moving process to learn perspective. And once I learned that my life was going to essentially be the same, and that perspective was simply my view. That is the only way we are going to be discussing perspective today, is through view, simply. And I realized that might be my golden ticket, because I might be able to learn happiness in these very real ways in life that I have never known before. Changing perspective, I feel as though, is really daunting for me. A quick bout of positivity can't possibly be the answer in a stubborn and complainative mind. And I just genuinely thought that there was no way around the concept of perspective being only about implanting false positivity. which is something that I want to break down for you today, because that is not always what changing perspective means. And that's why it was really difficult for me. So I want to paint it in a picture for you to understand that perspective change is something that you can grasp no matter how stubborn or how difficult it is for you to get out of certain mindsets. This is something we can instill in ourselves, like a lot of stuff, starting really, really small. Change of perspective was something that did not stick in the beginning for me. Yes, I recognized it as kind of a way out, but it was something that my brain is so stubborn sometimes that I know that there's little tweaks I can do, but again, there's no way that can save me, and I'm not partaking in that right now. It's not going to work. Now I live in this life where we're opportunity based. Not going to get into that. Doesn't apply right now, but that helps the situation. B, little tweaks and doing little things that do propel your energy and your viewpoint and your positivity in the day are something that greatly improve your quality of life. And I think it was hard because, I say again, I thought that it was going to make me this woo-woo hippie girl who just viewed life in these beautiful colors, and that is fucking daunting, because in the inside, that's all we want, right? We want freedom, and we want this happiness and this positivity in life where we just dance around in rainbows. And when you are faced with that being what you want, it is so fucking discouraging, because I suffered from depression and anxiety, severe sadness, severe darkness. And I used to be that girl where I viewed life in those colors and in that way. And I was deeply insecure that I wasn't her anymore. And I was deeply insecure trying to find the light again. And that is how change of perspective was painted for me. And it felt completely unobtainable. And I knew I could demolish that picture of what perspective change looked like. And that changing my life, I didn't have to change my life to gain a new perspective. Once I broke it down to recognize it was simply how I view life. My life's not changing. The things I do every day aren't changing, I say again. The only thing is how I view it. And I could demolish this picture of expectancy, constant expectancy. And that is something that needs to be demolished in a lot of healing, because it's this expectancy of ourselves and what we see on social media and what we see from other people, maybe in the rooms, or if you're in a healing group or your therapist or whatever it is. There is no expectancy around healing. And I want that to be something first and foremost that we begin to understand. It is a journey, and it is the way that you paint that picture. And healing is often really, really slow for a reason. So that was what really propelled me into understanding that I can't change, because I felt as though for a long time that I was not capable of that. So from there, I would recognize that it was small tweaks that I could implement in my life while I'm going through pain, while I'm trying to get sober, luckily succeeding, but at the same time struggling to do so, and dealing with real life challenges, whether it's familiar or whatever the fuck is going on. I need to be able to handle all of this and be real about it. And that was a tool that I brought in from sobriety first and foremost, that sobriety doesn't teach me to be perfect. It teaches me to be honest and real. And that was something that I had never had in my life. And I was able to bring that over during learning my perspective change. And I knew that that was something that I had to implement from here on out, because it changed the way that I viewed myself, and it changed the expectancy and pressure I had of myself in every situation that healing brought me, and every new, whether it was perspective change or learning anxiety, learning confidence, learning all this shit, that at the base of it, I needed to breathe and be real, and that I was never going to be that painted picture again of this perfect princess spinning around in circles, because I had gone through trauma, and I had gone through shit in my life that changed my brainwaves. It changed who I am. Another popular theme of me and my healing was learning that I needed a root cause. I needed a root cause as to why I felt the way I did, and I needed to get really close to and personalize these really broad general ideals like humility and peace and kindness and perspective change and any aspect of healing that is so big and so not me. is what it felt like. So I needed a way for me to get super close to that word to where I could recognize it. And that was when I started to transpire into things like honesty too. Because how am I going to implement that in my life? And what the fuck does that even mean to me? Because for as long as I've lived, these are things that people say. These are ideals that people have about themselves and about the world. Like, surely people don't actually follow this shit. They just say it. Aside from, I know people try to be kind. But aside from that, like, and that's because I was hiding, I was cheating, and I was lying. So in order for me, kind of a tangent, in order for me to get super close to this perspective change, I needed the root of the cause. The root of the cause would be me identifying the way that I viewed life, me identifying the way that my brain kind of habitually made patterns, I guess. So it was like 4 pillars of me being able to identify that I view life as such. Again, view. That is all we're focused on. We're not focused on how do I make this life perfect and pretty and I need to be positive all the time and I'm inserting this into my life. Perspective is switching your brain pattern completely. And I did this slowly and really close to my heart and kept it comfortable because that word is so big. And I needed to be consistent and determined in this. And it was hard to wake up every day and change a brain pattern. So I picked one at a time. And I guess we'll start with the first one. So number 1, I viewed the world through comparison and through insecurity. So I was in competition with both everyone ever and life. And I was deeply insecure, and my brain tended to view life and think on a pattern scale of comparison. This involved me getting my brain pattern out of a state of threat. And I don't want to apply the word threat to just comparison. Because y'all know I love the fight or flight situation and my nervous system was super fucked up, and I do like to talk about that, and sometimes it is still fucked up, and this fear and paralyzing sense of doom that we get ourselves into, and that is because of our natural perceived threat going on outside of us. So I think everyone's natural threats and how they view the world is different. For me, a lot of the threats meant comparison because I was severely threatened by the fact that I am not good enough. I still go through stages like this where, I mean, it's a lot less, but there are times where like I perceive that as a threat and I get deeply and severely insecure and very, very defensive. The first thing that I personally did when I recognized this and wanted to get out of that pattern of life was, and I've talked a little bit about this lesson before, but it was really important to me fundamentally in the beginning stages of healing that the world is not against me. And that life and all these people are not against me. And it gave me an opportunity to make friends with life. And I think there's this threat when we live life in this pattern of against us. Like we're pushing against a wave constantly. And I think that's a really popular thing with people who also suffer from depression, anxiety, and like a lot of people who might be here for mental health reasons. It's a common theme. And healing that relationship with life and what that looks like is what changed me. When you feel like the universe too, or your God or your higher power, or a force even outside of life is against you and everything is against you, it's just no place to start a healing journey, and it's not a safe place. And I think it's important to highlight today too that in healing, we are aiming for safety. We may already be safe, but we are aiming to get our brains into a space that understands we're safe. And that takes work, especially those of us that have been through a lot of bullshit, where you're just in that state of constant fear and threat. And it was one of the hardest things to understand that life was not against me. And we've talked about this in different episodes, and I don't have all the time in the world today, so we're kind of brushing on some of these topics that could get deeper. But the beginning stages were very difficult. Because I had to constantly remember when things happened to me, they weren't personalized. It was life as a whole being life. It was things that happened to everybody all the time. And my great issues and things that happened to me aren't shit. A, they happen to everyone. B, there's so much worse things happening out there, which is a broad statement. And I understand that. And I we do at the same time have to be patient and be kind to ourselves, right? Because we still hurt and we're still human. And that is also something else that was at the pit that really helped me and allowed me to walk myself through this and have my hand held through it, because I understood I was a human and that the emotions I was feeling were valid. And that me feeling such disgust and hatred for life when I had never felt that way before was because of what it was a result of what I had been through. Even if I put myself through it, it didn't matter. It was a result of what had happened to me, including self-infliction. And I had to be patient. And that was also after recognizing that I was so patient with other people and that I really felt for other people who felt sad and who felt like their feelings weren't valid. And I always would tell people, talk to me. And it finally clicked in myself that I'm allowed to do the same thing. I don't know how I got there or where that started. I don't know, sister. I don't know. But we can divulge the relationship with life at another time. That's what I did first. Damn. So that feeling of encouragement entered my life, which I greatly needed to change my perspective. I needed a feeling of encouragement. And that's not directly from my higher power, not directly from the universe, but from life itself, because I am now a piece of a unit. So I am not experiencing already innately this great competition of life, because I feel supported and I feel one of from just that small part of healing that relationship. So my perspective went from, I wish I was like that, or I wish I had that with the competition, to instead, I work for what I want in my life. And that is a strange perspective flip to bring in, because I know that, no, it's not, because we're at the point where the topic is not just positivity when we're talking about perspective change. It is how I view my life fundamentally, boiled down. So yeah, that's strange. But for myself, I needed to be provided the backbone and the determination that I have now. And that perspective change genuinely was the most important thing. One of the most important things that happened to me, because it brought me to my full potential of what I can be now. A hard worker with determination and severe consistency. And it is a huge part of who I am, but I didn't even know that because I wasn't that girl. And now who I am is so persistent and so opportunistic and severely determined. And it's a fierce piece of me that I get to keep, that I have. And I didn't even know that was part of who I am yet, because I hadn't had the chance to try, because I was sad and depressed and drunk. And it was really important for me to see that I'm not so deserving. And it's the combination of a quick, swift, and a swift kick in the ass of stop with the me bullshit, and at the same time, an encouragement through the way. So like the cohesiveness of those two things existing, because it's not always going to work for things to be a swift kick in the ass. And I've discussed that before. It is a gift to be supportive, a beautiful gift to be somebody who is supportive in life and somebody that people can both lean on for hard times, someone people can go to, and also when it's time to celebrate and when they deserve an applause. So I realized that and I've talked about this before, that I needed to be encouraging of other people, and that I needed to be mega supportive when things happen to other people, because I don't deserve things just because. We aren't handed this entitlement in life. I didn't want to live in envy, because I'm identifying that my life is full of comparison. Applauding people for what they have versus thinking that you get that is an attribute that's worth yearning for. And those are very stubborn parts of me too, that I only cared to admit on my very best days, when I had just gone to a meeting or just been around people or just done some work. So I felt like being really honest and pure and true. On my dark days, that's not something that I wanted to admit about myself in my healing stage. And again, eventually accountability would enter my life in a very significant way and would shine on me during the darkness, and was a very great way for me to move forward out of the stubbornness of some of these ideals. But anyways, it was a big perspective change, that instead of comparing, I am part of this unit now. It's just, I'm not her, from the idea of I'm not her to I need to be supportive of her. And that perspective change for comparison had to be so complicated. Instead of just viewing it as, I'm perfect in every way. I'm meant to be exactly where I am. The universe loves me. I was made and understood in this. Like, no, it's bullshit. Whenever you are years and years and years of EDs, of self-harm, not actual self-harm, of self-destructive views, of insecurity and jealousy magnified on this very large scale. It is bullshit to say, okay, my perspective's going to change and I'm going to start telling myself I'm perfect. No, it had to be as complex as becoming a unit with society and falling into my place in life. Not trying to change who I've been for so many years off the rip. Now, another really deep part of me that was granted the opportunity to change through the perspective of comparison was that I am made this way. I am made this way. Whatever is out there, whatever the fuck is going on, I was chosen to be paired with this body and this mind and this soul all together at the same time on this earth right now. Whether it was chosen, whether it was a sequence, whatever you want to call it, it happened. And there is something so special and undeniable and powerful about that. And that, again, is what we're searching for. Safety, and now we're at power. And I needed that in my life. I wanted power back. And it was a huge perspective change because it doesn't matter so much slowly what I am on the outside. It matters what I have on the inside. Not the things I own, not what I look like, but like I'm a miracle. I'm a once in a lifetime opportunity, and we all are. And again, that came with, I'll talk about it again. I do a lot that life became really cool to me, and being a human became really cool to me on this healing journey. Cause like, what the fuck? And I am magic for real, and I am power for real, and I'm a force to be reckoned with. And I needed that to exist inside of me. And I don't know what really made me accept that into my life, but my perspective of comparison completely changed, because she may look a certain way and have this body and have these clothes and have this money or have whatever, but she could never be me though. And I don't want her to be. I'm not in competition with her anymore. You know, like there isn't a comparison when you recognize life on that almost like extraterrestrial viewpoint of, oh no, how long was I out of focus? Sorry. How long was I gone? And it was much easier for me to do that than to tell myself I'm pretty in a mirror over and over again. Because we all know it's something that we struggle and face. We talked about it when we talked about the confidence episode. And it is, that doesn't mean that I innately love myself now. And that I'm going to walk through life every single day with my head really high and think that I'm just the bee's knees. It's not reality. But what is reality is knowing deep down that I love myself and I love this experience of life that I get to have now at this time, now, today. And that follows me everywhere I go. On my worst days, when I look in the mirror and I'm like, gross, I'm broken out, or I shouldn't have had that last cookie, or whatever, there's still a feeling of gratitude that exists. And maybe it's gratitude really visiting the picture in terms of being alive. And then I always too I grew up with a sister who was sick a lot in my life, and other people in my life who were just sick. And I was really, really, really grateful for my physical health. And that is an opportunity I think I was given through seeing people suffer throughout my life. That I knew I was physically capable and well, and that I was not in chronic pain all the time. And I don't know if other people feel that way, but it's a gift to me because it's a beautiful way that I get to view life too. That followed me even through kind of my dark times. I would think about it here and there, but it's a random thought to bring up, but that really helped with my perspective change, that like I am capable of being a human and I get to do everything I want to, literally. And I think it's a viewpoint of gratitude that enters. And this was the beginning of my horizons broadening, of the little tiny importance that what I look like holds, you know? And again, with the reality to understand that I'm going to have hard days, and with the reality that I'm still a human again. There's that point again. I'm a person with feelings who does feel the same way sometimes as the way that society wants me to feel, or the way that's been painted to me, or the way that I don't want to feel anymore, but I do. And that's okay because I'm a fucking person. But now that is slowly becoming the least important part of me, versus that is how I live and view my life. That is of utmost importance to me. And it doesn't matter. And that was my horizons broadening. And I think it was great that I focused on this kind of early because it trickled into a lot of other parts of my life. Now, number 2 of ways that I identified my brain thought pattern. This is how I viewed life. Number 2, negativity. Out of negativity, girl. And this deep yearn in my chest to be happy that was constantly there. I put so much pressure into what happiness looked like and what I needed to be happy. Especially in early healing. But that pressure existed throughout my life, and it actually caused more negativity because, again, I couldn't be her. That girl that I used to be, I couldn't be her anymore. And that shit made me sick to my stomach. And it made me extremely negative because it allowed a victimization about myself that I now run from that type of behavior because I'm not the victim. Because even if I am, I don't want to live that way. It's bullshit. It sucks. And nobody wants to be around that shit. So if you live a victim mentality, we'll talk about this a different time. Victim mentality sucks. Victimization sucks. It's fucking stupid. I realize, and this is I think this topic, there's a lot to be said about the negativity thing. And I think here today I want to represent again to you the process of identifying and boiling it down versus we're turning life into this positive picture. So this part I'm going to keep kind of small because healing in general, isn't that what it is us trying to take negatives and turn them into positives. So a lot of those same methods and advice that other people give you or that you've maybe used is this a lot of the same things that I've applied to my life in the pursuit of peace and of letting go of negativity and becoming better. But a thought process that I had is when people say, I hope I have a good day. And I would say that all the time. I hope I have a good day today. What the fuck? No, you've already decided. I have a good day today. I have a good day. I will have a good day today. Was now the perspective change that I was initiating. Why am I leaving stuff that I can control up to hope? And don't get me wrong, hope is an amazing driving factor. Hope is a beautiful thing. But if it's something I can control and something that I can do, why am I leaving it up to hope? And it's, of course, this thing, well, you could have a flat tire that day. Or it could be things back to back. Like you get a ticket, you get a flat tire, somebody gets sick, your dog throws up on the carpet, like a sitcom, all the things adding up. But some of my best days, a lot of that shit happened. It doesn't matter when you are happy what happens to you. It is a perspective of life. And that is not true happiness, is what's happening to you during the day. It is a perspective and it is a state of mind is what that is. That can't be deterred or can't really be changed. Because then those bad things that happen, they stay closer to the moment. You clean up and you move on. We change the tire and we go on to the next thing. Instead of it lingering. And that's because I think a lot of the time, and it's because of our own energy, that good days roll into good days and negative days roll into negative days. And I think that's the truth because I experienced that. And that was also, it was a trend for me to stabilize my moods. I had really bad mood swings and would just be all over the place. And I realized that I was my own energy source and that I was rolling into myself. It wasn't something else contributing. It was when bad things happened, I stuck on that train of thought. And it was proof that I'm not really happy then, And I don't need to also continue to lie and say that I am. Because what if I'm fucking not? Then what? What, somebody gonna come get me? Is no one gonna like me anymore? I'm just being honest and real about what I feel, and that's okay. So I learned for me that I had to be more declarative in my life. And that was also maybe because subconsciously I was missing a bout of responsibility and of accountability. I was missing a lot of that. And I needed that underlying responsibility of I am, I have, I do. And these were statements that were promises. And now we know promises are very important to me. Whether it's to myself or to other people, we fulfill that. We fulfill and we move forward. And I always felt that way, but not when I was drinking and being a really bad person. Yeah, I'll do that. I promise. I fucking wouldn't. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. But these were the first promises that started to mean something to me. Where I will and I do statements, and even for small things. My perspective was too wide and just too ambiguous. Because happiness is not vague. When we think about our happiest moments, it's a moment. That's what it is. It's that moment. It's something that's specific. And a bunch of those moments added up link into happiness, link into positivity. The way that I view each little thing counts, not this ambiguous and massive picture. And that was a big perspective change in my negativity, was honing in literally what am I looking at and what am I analyzing right now? Because I'm analyzing 4 days at a time. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Because I also realized that some of the things that I like to do were actually small things. And that's the girl in me. Going to the store. I love going to Whole Foods, bitch. To this day, I love going to Harris Teeter. Don't get me started on Costco. Love it. Love getting coffees. I love going to the gym. I don't just like it. I love it. And I don't care. And I love doing little weird errands and things. And that is okay. So I began to enjoy those little things to their full potential instead of watering them down and being like, that's something weird that makes you happy. Like whatever makes you happy makes you happy. And it might not look like what you even think it should look like. And so instead, I would stop watering those things down. And it's not like the beginning of my day, I love journaling and meditating and going to the gym. I have elongated them. On bad days, the other day, the whole day I went to the gym and did yoga and shit because I was having a bad day. And that's what made me feel better. You know, there's not a better way to emphasize that or explain myself. So I kind of want to move on from that because what was that? That's the thing about positivity and happiness is that it is like dust that follows you. It is a snowball effect. And that is what we're looking for in those little moments of happiness that turn into a lifestyle of positivity, of opportunism. So really, and again, this is why I didn't want to go on these tangents because this is something I could talk about all day. But what was my main perspective change in my negativity? It's that I don't need happiness. I already have it. That is something that exists that I elect. That isn't something that's granted to me at some random point in time that I randomly get. It is something that I provide myself. And that's the perspective change. After that, I began to look for it. And that's what really fundamentally changed the negativity was that over time, my perspective is now choosing innately on my inside without a ton of work because I've changed a broader picture of what it looks like and what it's labeled as in my head. So now the way that I am looking for positivity throughout my day is so much different. The way that I'm looking at color and looking at life is so much different. And that was after just the perspective change of it being so broad in that way. I feel like you guys can't, the lighting is not lighting today. So I think I did an okay job of refraining from happiness tangents, which is always hard for me to do because there's so much to say and it's so personalized. But the third pillar of the way I viewed life was living in the next moment. So my life was constantly about the next chore, the next task, the next day, the next week, the next month. This promise of future fulfillment, that never comes. Deep down, I was thinking, surely the next task is going to be what brings the thing that makes me feel better. And that's because deep down, it was representation that I wasn't feeling good. And that hopefully, and yes, I think living in the next moment is also the byproduct of a busy mind, right? It's not necessarily a clue into you being sad and depressed. But for me personally, I wasn't busy enough and I know myself. And it was me looking for a future fulfillment. It wasn't that I was busy and I had a lot on my plate and that I needed to plan out my day and I needed to get shit done. It's because I'm praying to God that something makes me feel better. And obviously I can't enjoy anything if I am stuck in the next moment. But my big perspective, I think each one's kind of had a lesson of what the big perspective change was in general. And again, this is a topic we talk about a lot, sticking to the moment, being close to the moment. And that has always been really hard for me. So the big thing here, that slowing down doesn't mean being stagnant. It doesn't mean an inability to accomplish stuff. It means being thorough. And I had to view the moment as that. It is me being thorough with my work. And by work, I mean everything in life. It wasn't that I had to slow down and just like catch a vibe. It was me being thorough. And I think that maybe is a tweak for somebody who is high wired like the way I am. We all know my type A head ass, my determined head ass. But sometimes I have to paint things in that picture. And it was me understanding that I can have success and peace together, because it was also the cornerstone of me attaching quality and quantity. And I had always been a quantity style of person and achieving so many things in my day as much as I possibly can. But I started to understand the importance of quality. And that was amazing for me to stick to the moment. And understanding that I could have both, and that it was good at also identifying what I wanted out of life. A little bit of a tangent. It is what allowed me to go with the flow, because I don't constantly have to have control anymore. And again, that is a topic that we talk about all the time and we could talk about a million times, but it was a really big way of how I live my life. And it is important to be honest when we're assessing the pillars of what your life looks like and why. And it's often like not what we think. Now, the fourth pillar, we're not going to discuss too much because we just had a Why Am I Always Tired episode. So guess what? You can go watch that episode like I say every day. But the fourth one is I want to go to bed. When do I get to get back in bed? I was walking around just being like that and doing things to try to get back into bed. When can I squeeze being in bed? Now, those 4 ideals being switched in my head, it was more than perspective change. It gave me an entire new life. And this was over a month's span. And it was me constantly being in my head every single day, reminding myself of these little tasks and these little things that I needed to do and I need to be present for. Because of that, what I want and what I need out of life is so much less complicated and so much more powerful. I'm asking for so much less. And I'm so close to the camera right now. That is a beautiful way to live life, to need and want so much less. And now in almost every situation, I can see a flip side. And that is because I really trained the perspective in my brain of seeing things, view again, from every point of view that I possibly can. And sometimes this takes me Rubik's cubing it over and over until it changes to this right way. I'm like, oh, I understand that perspective now. And it might be a more positive or even just a different, sometimes not even more positive, just a different perspective of things. And I went through one of those recently where we all know about my struggles with my job situation and what I want to be and yada yada. And I don't know, I had a really big perspective change in that. And that was, just to give you an example, I'm not going into specifics, but that was followed by like 2 or 3 weeks of me flipping it on its head. And I get to a spot where I feel comfortable with it, like where I can live with it. Not that I found my answer to my job and stuff, but the way the situation left me feeling every day. And I was really trying to be positive through it. And it was just really hard for me to remain positive. And so I would get to like this point, I'm at like a plateau kind of, and I'm like, okay, I feel better about this. And then that perspective just didn't work. And then I'm like, damn, I'm sad again. And I just got to a point where I feel like I had tried on enough shirts. No, the fuck? To where the perspective is something that I can live with now. And that I feel much better about my viewpoint on a really big and deep topic to me. And it might not be to everyone else. Again, y'all saw how depressed I get over that. I definitely deserve the time and the patience, and you do too, that you sit back and you analyze the way that you truly view life and how to change those perspectives. And there's definitely a lot of other ways to talk about changing perspective, and I think that we can talk about it if you want to in a more broader scale of basically negative to positive, because it was not only a pillar in my healing but in my sobriety too. It was really important whenever I got off alcohol that, life meant something so much different to me now, and what I want is so much different. And it was beautiful it was like having like a back brace on. Like, it really helped guide me, and it made it a lot easier and a lot more comfortable for me to pursue a new lifestyle in healing from alcohol specifically. but, you know, in any bout of healing for yourself. So we can talk about this again. You know, I just wanted to start the conversation today, and that's it. Active change does not end. For every situation and everything that we go through in life, we need these tools again. So it's a good function to have as a basis. The way that we view life is the most important part. And it might not even be the answers for how we get through things, but how we view it is what's really important. So again, I recommend, I'm so close to you today, and I'm sorry about that. I don't want you to see me this close. It's the lighting. I need a new sitting spot, and we've discovered that today. But can I stop? Today I'm just encouraging you deeply to assess your perspective and your views on life and be honest about it. And that's really all I have today. A really short episode, but we're just starting some conversations, just wiggling some things around. So I love you guys, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.